Okay, it's Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. This is a meeting of the Milford Finance Committee. Let's see, preliminary announcements. We have two new members, Sean McGowan and Nick Holmes, and longstanding member Chuck McLosevich has decided to resign. So he was on the Finance Committee for, I believe, over 50 years. And so there was a little get-together for him over the summer. We thank him for his service. And so that's the change in the scorecard for tonight. Next item is approval of the prior minutes, which were circulated, I think, back in June. Anything? A motion by Al to approve?
Second.
Second by Lauren. Okay, we have someone on Zoom, so we do roll call. You are not here, so you'll abstain.
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
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 Yes, abstain.
Abstain.
I abstained, I wasn't here in June.
Okay. And Lauren.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, Leanne, 3 abstentions, and otherwise unanimous. Okay, next, invitation to speak. Okay, hearing no one. The next item is the status of the high school building committee and the high school project. So there's nothing obviously before the Finance Committee right now, but I think this is an important discussion to try to bring everybody in the various constituencies in the town up to speed on where we've been so far and to have a little more of a full discussion about this project. I think it was Bob DeVita last fall that suggested we have this meeting, and I took him up on that because, you know, a lot of people on this committee have heard Al saying for the last 3 years, there's a high school coming. And I, for one, do not recall the Finance Committee at any time in that actual 3-year period talking about why is there a high school coming. And so what we've circulated is a couple of things. Matt Zacchelli, on behalf of the school committee, sent us the statements of interest from April of 2022 and April of 2023 that were sent to the state. And Al also provided me with effectively the request for proposal for the, I don't know how you define them, the consultant. This is the party that will prepare.
Owner's project manager.
Is this the owner's project manager right now, or is this just the party who's doing?
No, that's the RFS for the owner's project manager. If I could just jump in, is that okay?
Yeah. So, but before, let me tell you what my understanding was, and correct me if I was wrong, is that what we were doing right now is selecting someone to conduct a feasibility study of options over the next, whatever, 12 or 24 months. And then once that was done, we would select a manager to actually.
No, not exactly.
Okay, so clarify that
Okay,
for
so
me.
the way the process works on an MSBA funded project, anything they participate in, you start with a statement of interest, which happened for several years. And by the way, Al's been talking about there's a high school coming for 10 years that I know. I know of 10, so just to clarify that. So you start with a statement of interest, and eventually you get to the top of the list, and MSBA invites you into eligibility period. During the eligibility period, we go through certain exercises and get everything in place. And then they will vote to invite you into feasibility study schematic design. The first thing that happens once you're into feasibility study schematic design, and the feasibility study is what and where, schematic more or less, and schematic design is what's it going to look like. You know, a picture of the architecturals, that sort of thing. So the first thing we have to do is hire an owner's project manager. In the past, it may have been referred to as a clerk of the works, and then you would expect them when you start the construction. But the owner's project manager facilitates getting us through feasibility and schematic design, and then there will be an amendment to the contract into the actual construction component of it. So where are we at the moment? Today, we submitted we went out to RFS. We had 10 respondents. They were shortlisted into 3. 3 were interviewed, and a contract was offered to one of them, the highest ranked after the interviews. We negotiated the price, and last night, the building committee voted to accept the subcommittee's nomination or recommendation for the OPM, which is next level OPM. The principal of next level was the project manager from Jocelyn Lesser and Associates, who actually was the OPM for Woodland. So there is a strong connection. Great guy, knows what he's knows what he's doing, quite competent, and that's who was selected. Today, that entire package was sent to MSBA because they have to approve the process in the selection, and they will vote on October 6th, presumably to accept our selection for owner's project manager. Once that happens, then you go into RFS again, but now you have an OPM driving the bus. This last time, I can't think, the school department, central office, and then the subcommittee from the building committee who did all the heavy lifting. Because we're not used to this, as opposed to now you have an OPM and we're going out for RFS for designer. They know all the moving parts. We didn't. And so MSBA was incredibly helpful. Craig was on the phone with them all the time to get our questions answered, and I believe that we submitted an absolutely complete, acceptable package today to MSBA. That's your 100, whatever number pages, I'm not even sure.
And so next level is going to perform the feasibility
Next level will facilitate getting a designer, an architectural firm. They will support us going through the RFS process and interfacing with MSBA. And we will then have another subcommittee that will thoroughly vet the respondents for architectural services. And then we'll do exactly the same thing, send the information to MSBA, and they will vote on which architect firm we're going to have. The time frame for that is the OPM selection runs until, OPM selection ended today. Had to be submitted. It'll be voted October 6th. Then we start designer selection on October 7th with an expectation of finalizing that the end of January 26th. So as I'm preparing for this meeting, I'm thinking, Finance Committee, they want to know what this is going to cost.
Well, before we get to cost, let's stick with timeline.
So let me keep going on the timeline, but
Yeah.
it was just a good point to add that in, because until we have a designer, we can't even think about, we have no clue. The designer comes on board the end of January 26th with an expectation by a year from now, September 12th, actually, 26, at that point, we should have a preferred schematic design. And why I say preferred is they will give us multiple choices of schematic design that will be thoroughly vetted by the building committee and the school department to come up with a preferred schematic design. We should start seeing some numbers coming in next summer. So again, we have no idea today. By next summer, we'll start seeing numbers, and by preferred schematic design a year from now, we'll have real numbers. And that's our timeline.
Okay, but let's keep carrying it from there. So then now, does the town school building committee have a period of analyzing the various design options?
Sure, I mean, preferred schematic design, once you come up with preferred schematic design, you then go into schematic design, which will run till the following April of '27, more or less.
So what's happening between September of '26 and April of '27?
The architect team is doing their work, creating design and getting costs and that sort of thing.
Has the town, where does town approval come into all this process?
Town meeting approval will be after the design is done, and contract documents are scheduled for April of '28, with construction starting in February of '28. That can't be true. They overlap.
Well, but we can't start on any project, any direction until the town
I don't
has
have a
approved
good,
it.
I don't have a good date
Okay.
for when we'd be going to town meeting. My guess is it would be like Woodland, which was a special town meeting for one topic only. So,
I mean, are we talking about like May of '27? I mean, what are we?
well, April of '27, we have schematic design completed. Design documents are by the end of '27, so I'm going to guess somewhere late '27. It's just a guess.
Okay.
I'm going to guess by, sometime late in '27, we'll be looking for town meeting approval because we can't have a contract until we have the money.
Right,
Andy,
yeah.
one thing, this is an amazing process. I won't say it's scripted totally, but every single step, the SBA has a guideline and a rule as to when you can have coffee, how many coffees you can have. But I mean, they're really helpful because, as Jonathan mentioned, well, you've done it before, but you're the only one that's done it before.
The way I explain it is, we actually went out and hired a consultant to get us through eligibility period. Because we do this once a decade at the most. But people that work with MSBA do it every week. What I will say is it seems like you're handcuffed by MSBA, but they get it right. They really, really, really know what they're doing. To the point that the reason we can't even bring an architect on until after the first of the year is I believe, no one's ever confirmed it, but it only makes sense, they throttle the process so that the demand comes in as they have the funds for it.
Makes sense.
So if everybody files a statement of interest, everyone's invited into eligibility period, and everyone comes up with it at the same time, they run out of money. But if you throttle the process so that we're due for an architect the end of January, somebody before us is due for an architect the end of December, somebody after us the end of next March, they can manage their cash flow. They really, really know what they're doing. The frustrating part is they will tell us, and I can only relate to Woodland, which is a brand-new school, you have an approved enrollment number, which for the high school, I could tell you, for an 8 through 12 school, is 2,150 students. That's what we're talking about building for, including Chapter 74 programming. And to who may not know that, those are the trades. And we're going to our plan is to build a comprehensive high school, means that we're bringing back the trades that left here in the early 70s. So the student that can't get into Valley Tech but wants to be a plumber now has a pathway forward.
Okay, so that gets to the second issue. So the first issue is timing, 2027, and then there's the actual build. Okay, so the second question is need, which I think is another issue that the Finance Committee really hasn't had a lot of experience with on this project. So I went through the statements of interest. I see we have a roof that's 20 years old. I see that there's some original HVAC and plumbing. There's some window issues. The vocational issue that you just raised. Apparently, there's some need for modification of lab space. Okay, I understand all those things. A couple of questions I would have, and then I'll open it up to the floor for other people to ask questions, is it seems like a pretty solid building, and it's only 50 years old. Now, people say, well, it's 50 years old, we should replace it. Well, how old is Memorial School? I mean, we don't knock buildings down because they're 50 years old, right? This goes to the question of repair versus renovation versus redo. And then the second question I had was on the vocational. We're going to be doing vocational at the same time Blackstone Valley does vocational, or how does that all work?
When I sat on the school committee from 24 to 2010, and I always looked at the kids that couldn't get into Valley. I'm just going to editorialize for a moment. The kids that couldn't get into Valley Tech, what happens to them? And I wanted to, as a school committee member, I wanted to see if we could bring trades back to the town of Milford. And the state rules at the time were, if it's provided at your regional voc tech school, you cannot. But if it's not done at the regional voc tech school, you can. Those rules have now changed. The rules today are, the way I understand them, is you can demonstrate you're underserved by your voc tech district, you could bring the programming back in. Any kid, any student that participates in a Chapter 74 program that we hope to pull together at Milford High, and that's more school department than building committee, but if I can speak on their behalf for a moment. My understanding is that any student that participates in the voc tech programming brings an extra $5,000 a year from the state. And Attleboro is a great example where Attleboro is not part of a Voc Tech school district. They have a comprehensive school, and my understanding is about 80% of the students are in the Voc Tech program. So if you take 80%. 80%? So if you take why wouldn't you? You still can do art, music, theater, athletic, choir, all these things, and you still go down to the shop. You still get exposed to that. And you still do your AP classes. So when you look at it from a global perspective and as a parent, and as a fellow who had a father that was in the trades, this is a wonderful opportunity for the town of Milford. The state brings money in. You can teach these trades that today, if you think about it, if you have a kid, 8th grade, doesn't get into Valley Tech, wants to be a plumber, hard stop. You have to have a high school diploma to be a plumber. If you can't get to Valley Tech or another Voc Tech school, you have to go through your 4 years of liberal arts school, graduate, get a diploma, somehow fit your apprenticeship in, and go to night school to get the academic component. So from a societal perspective, it's a terrible disservice. And I understand that Valley Tech can't accept everybody, but we have an opportunity here to come back to where we were when we had these programs in school. That's more school department stuff. I mean, I keep telling the school department, I'm chairman of the building committee, we're going to build the school you want us to build. It's that simple. But when you go talk about the status of the building itself, one of the problems you run into in a 50-year-old building with old technology is your cost of operation is staggering. Even your windows, they're not today's current insulation levels. The walls don't have the insulation today. That building has 300 or 325 horsepower boilers in it that supply heat over here for the entire building, as opposed to modern technology where you have rooftop units for each wing. The plumbing is gone. It's the plumbing code for commercial or that sort of building is cast iron pipes. They're in the concrete. They're rotted out after 50 years. The plumbing has to be redone. There's no fire protection sprinkler system in the building. The electric system is way outdated. So the building from the outside looks like it's in great repair. And yeah, there was a roof done. I was on the school committee at the time, so it might be 20 years.
20 years.
20 years ago. It was 20 years ago, and people may criticize and say, well, you didn't maintain it. Well, the reality is we've been accepted into a program to do something with the building. Why would you spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on a roof that may not be applicable to what the new building will look like?
Okay, I'm going to stop here and give other people.
One thing just for clarification, we are not taking the programs out of Valley Tech.
Correct.
Today, we have 30 slots for carpentry, plumbing, whatever, the Valley Tech will take of Milford. We have 50 kids who want to be a plumber or a carpenter, whatever. This is, the Chapter 74 is going to address the 20 kids who couldn't academically make it into BVT. Because when we grew up in the high school, if you were going to college, you went to Milford High. If you wanted to do a trade, you went to BVT. But the fact is, for the last few years, you got to be in the top 10, 15% academic level to get accepted at BVT. And for many years, I've said my father was a prime example. Put my father in an organic chemistry class, he wouldn't do well. Give him a tool, he's an artist. So it's for people like my father who couldn't get in the top 10, 15% of the academic scores that we'll be addressing, not the 30 that, they're still going to accept the 30 that they had. We're not taking anything away.
The other, if I may just add in, the financial component is certainly worth recognizing. At $5,000 per student extra for everyone who signs up in that program. Now, I was on the college path my whole life from, I think, basically in utero. I was going to college. It's just the way it was going to be. But I always liked work with my hands. I always liked doing those sorts of things. I would absolutely have gone that pathway, even if I wasn't going into the trades, because I could learn real skills, and the town gets compensated for that. Another thing that I also think changes that bears recognizing, we have students choicing out of Milford in the high school years. Who's going to choice out of a new building with Chapter 74 programming. In fact, I'm convinced people will choice in. I'm old enough to remember when we had students choicing into Woodland String Program at third grade. We had, back then, we had a net positive in school choice. Today, we don't.
Here we go. David?
I just had, I agree with everything you say, by the way. I just have 3 bullet points. One is, do we know what the percentage contribution from MSBA is?
Yeah, we do.
We're going to get to
Okay.
costs in a minute.
All right, well, I just want to know that. And then this is just 3 points just for discussion
Sure,
at
sure.
a later time or now, if so.
No, actually, go ahead.
Do we know what the plans for the land on the old building is going to be? And converse to your gaining Chapter 74 money, has anybody looked at any Chapter 70 money that will lose because of it? And is there a net effect? Is there a plus-minus effect on that? That's all.
I can't address that. I can only address that. Just the pieces that I've heard, that it's a positive with Chapter 74. I think you're thinking about what's going to happen with the land under the building. I don't believe it's going to be a build and a demo. I think it's going to be mostly renovation with selected demo and rebuilding.
Okay.
That's my sense. The only thing that I am reasonably comfortable and confident with stating is whatever we do is going to be at 31 West Fountain Street. We are not going to do the intergalactic search and end up back on 31 West Fountain Street.
I thought it was behind the old
We're going to
fields.
look, that's part of schematic design.
Okay.
Is there enough room to basically flip it? Today, we have academic in the front and common area in the back. And is there enough room to build new academic area in the back and re-renovate the common area in the front? We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know. That's schematic design. The reimbursement rate, I believe, is right now pegged at 73.1. I may be off on that, but it's at least 70%. And we're waiting to hear with respect to, as part of eligibility, we had to provide our capital maintenance plans, and you can get bonus points for what we do. The maximum it could be is 80%. I'm not sure we'd get there, but we're comfortable we're not going to get cut from 73-ish%. So those are really good numbers. The number that is effectively cast in concrete, everything's subject to change, of course, but 2,150 students, 8 through 12, Chapter 74 programming will be examined. We'll come up with schematic designs. We'll have a preferred schematic design, and we should start seeing numbers sometime next spring or summer. And we're happy to share that information as soon as it comes in.
Can it?
Yes. Correct.
Dave, I just want to clarify, Chapter 74 is in addition to, not instead of,
Oh, okay.
Chapter 70.
But if there's, I don't know if
That makes
there's,
sense?
yes, but I didn't know if there was like a population shift from kids going into 74, out of 70.
No.
Is there nothing like-
No, it's all part of the same school.
It's all paid, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My understanding is the Chapter 70 money is for the body. You get a bonus of $5,000 per student.
Correct.
For the
If the
program.
student also is in.
And if you choice in the Chapter 74 student, you get all the money plus $5,000.
So it's an additive. So
Yes.
No matter what, it's an additive.
Yeah.
You're not losing 70 and getting $5,000.
That's what, right.
No.
This is if you're qualified as what, underserved?
If we're underserved by the VOC district, we have a list, I don't know what they are offhand, 9 vocational type program. You have the list?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I have the list, but I also-
What the school department is planning to embed in a new school, renovated school curriculum are.
Well, for the
So,
nine.
but you get
What are the
additional,
nine?
you get additional reimbursement, but you also have additional programs you're
Right,
covering.
right.
It's like when you were saying, if you build out 30 extra classrooms, you not only have the additional costs, but you actually have the ongoing operational costs.
And that's the whole idea of, once we have a design, we'll know what it's going to cost, including the extra space and rooms.
We got the one.
That won't tell us the carrying cost, will it? That'll just tell us the cost of
No,
construction.
but you can derive,
Extrapolate it?
extrapolate it out.
Yeah.
The 9 that we've presented,
The 9, I'm sorry, the 9 what?
programs,
VOC program.
advanced manufacturing, biotech, construction, craft, early education, electricity, engineering, technology, HVAC, information support services and networking, and plumbing. And just for real numbers with Admissions, I'll give you 3 years. So 21, 22, 137 students applied, 36 kids got in. That was
To BVT.
BVT.
That's the underserved component.
In 2022, 23, 153 kids applied, 66 got in. In 23, 24, 135 applied, 56 got in.
Of course, there's all sorts of issues baked into that, right? Some
There is.
kids are going there for education, the scholastic, not the,
There's plenty of kids that don't even
it
apply.
is, I agree with you.
That's another problem.
agree with you.
That, I don't know what the rates are, but they have a huge percentage that go off to college.
But Craig, what you were saying, people should listen. There's a lot of kids
That aren't even in this number because they don't apply because
saying,
they
"I'll
know
never
it's
get
a-
in. I'm not gonna
gonna
even
even
try."
try.
Yeah.
Just a question on that point that you made, please. Would you say that was pretty typical across many schools in Massachusetts?
Yes.
Or are we unique?
No, it's very typical, and in fact, that's what drove at the state level, now
the
it's
change of
lottery,
the-
it's
okay.
lottery-based.
I've got a couple of questions, but
So
I-
there's-
Yeah,
But yes, it's very typical, which is why I have to believe the state said, if you're underserved, you can do it, where 15 years ago, you couldn't.
Right.
That's what changed.
So roughly 1,000 kids apply to BVT. They only have 300, 350 seats, something like that.
that's what-
So with the lottery change coming at the state, would you anticipate those numbers changing?
No.
No, so it should
Because
stay.
they only have so many seats. It's just rather than, I tell my kids, if you get a check minus in your homework in the 4th grade, you can't get into Valley Tech, so be careful. But rather than that coming into the equation, if you meet a certain threshold, you go in the lottery.
Okay, before I go to the next topic,
I got-
go ahead.
Okay,
Well,
just a few questions. I have to tell you up front, if you look at the paperwork that was provided to us, you guys have one heck of a job. Let me tell you, it is a monumental task. I don't know how you get through it, because I don't want to say I was pulling my hair out, because that wouldn't be true, but anyway.
Melissa Bullock.
It's a lot of work. It is a lot of
it
work.
is.
And
Bobby, 6 a.m. meetings, the guy calls.
Did they have coffee?
No, you had to bring your own coffee.
I was unaware, by the way, that when I went through the package, that you could include all of the things such as the plumbing, heating, air conditioning, electrical. I was unaware that you could do that.
You couldn't before, now you can.
Okay. My concern is, and I think you said that at this point, you anticipate construction to begin around February of '28. Give or take?
Construction start in February of '28 to be completed to open the school in '30.
And this may be an unfair question, but are we in peril with any of those issues outlined in here with respect to boilers, windows, air conditioning, roofs? Al, do we have anything on the capital plan today for the schools to cover these things that they indicate
Yeah, and we
are in need of repair?
said we're not doing them. Unless it's an emergency. Bobby, you've got a good point, because, was it 2 years ago, the boiler blew?
Yeah.
And they went
And
to,
last year, last winter, there was a roof
and the
bomb.
maintenance people had to go to ye old boiler makers, and they couldn't find parts for 50-year-old boilers.
Yeah.
So there's always that risk. But things like the roof, Jonathan mentioned we needed to redo part of the roof. Dang, if I'm going to support spending millions of dollars, knowing that in 3 or 4 years, it could be ripped up. So there's a risk.
No, I understand.
And
I understand.
there's money in the capital plan that we're not taking serious, because we're hoping that we can put it off, like new windows.
But
So there is money in your plan, in our
Yeah, but it's
five-year
not-
outlook?
the
You
bomb-
know how we have items that we
Yeah,
say,
yes.
we could run into this?
Yes.
That's where those are.
I'm just trying to gauge the level of risk and the level of our exposure to these things. Because as you point out, it ain't cheap to replace a boiler or a roof. And I fully concur with your decision to put it off. It does not make sense at this point. That was my question.
Boiler things, you just keep running. But the roof, for example, you have a preferred schematic design that you've selected, and you know that from the kitchen all the way to the back, the footprint isn't changing. You can feel comfortable doing a roof,
Okay,
okay? Because that's not going to change.
got you.
Lauren has her hand up. Let me give Lauren a chance to
I
ask.
had a few more, but
Oh,
that's,
I'll
yeah.
come back to you, Bob.
All right, fine.
Okay, go ahead, Lauren.
Well, thank you, Bob, for bringing up the boiler, because that's something it stuck out to me as well. I'm wondering, I mean, first of all, I thought that there were repairs made to the boiler. So then my next question, because I always think about liability exposure and I always think about how to prevent future expense. So is asbestos, and are Milford employees working on these boilers?
Okay. I can remember some number of years ago, the front of the building was closed off while asbestos was being removed. There was asbestos in the building. I know that the entry has been de-asbestosized, if that's the word, if that's the verb.
Remediation.
Okay, that was done. As far as what's in the boilers in that area, that's part of feasibility study, what's really there. But it doesn't really change what's going on the ground. If the boiler fails, you have to heat the building, you have to fix it. And what we're doing doesn't change that either direction. It doesn't make it better, it doesn't make it worse.
Anything else, Lauren, before I go back to Bob?
Well, I'm just pointing out that this is a 2023 thing, and it says at page 11, asbestos is present on a number of storage tanks, heating lines, and boiler breaching. That alarms me because it's one thing if the manufacturer is going in and making repairs. It's another thing if our employees are exposed. I'm just concerned about that. I think somebody should be putting Cleaver Brooks Company on notice. I know that they've had to pay out a bunch of litigation. That was my first point. I do have some other ones, but Bob had already gone ahead of me, so go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. I really struggled with enrollment, but I think I heard you say in your introduction that the Board of Education has accepted your enrollment figures?
Correct. At 21, again, it's 8 through 12, not 9 through 12.
Well, I'm looking at the whole K,
But
or
the
pre-kindergarten.
number
through.
that MSBA accepted after looking
Do we
at.
have-
What?
I'm sorry, go ahead, no, I interrupted you.
Milford is a very unique community where birth rate doesn't solely drive school population.
That's clear.
Right. So the number that was agreed to, we went back and forth, and again, MSBA gets it right. They have people that do this all day long, and they analyze it, and the number they came back with was 2150. And just to put that into perspective, Woodland, the number was 985, I believe, and that's just what it opened with.
Do we have 25, 26 enrollment figures, our current year, current school year?
We do. We're down a little this year, right now.
What's a little?
Right, approximately 4,400.
From where?
45, 50 maybe at the end of the year.
So this is all an unknown,
It's all-
right?
It's
But-
unknown, right.
But
Well,
you
it's
can go
unknown.
back historically, and we've been anywhere between 4,300 to 46.
And that's what I'm struggling with. I did go back, and for years, we added 10, 12 students maybe. That's not the case any longer, but I think it is important because if we have projections that say such and such, the Department of Education has accepted them, and we're lower than that, is it cause for concern? I don't know. So we'll keep an eye on it. Hopefully you'll come back in 6 months.
Yeah, we're happy to come back.
I'm
As
sure
soon as
you
we
are.
see numbers. The only thing that as afraid I am, is that the right word? As worried I am about building a school too small, I'm terrified about building a school too big. Seriously, because.
Who's got a better crystal ball?
Right, but we're talking about something that will open 5 years from now.
But too big will give you more opportunity for other programs
No
within the
question.
school, though, so.
It gives you a lot of opportunity, because if you look down the road, like Al's been saying, at least 10 years, high school, we're already talking, you got to remember, Stacy Middle School right now is a 30-year-old renovation. It opened up in September of '95. People forget that. That is a 30-year-old renovation. Tremendously overpopulated at the moment, which is why 8th grade will be coming out. And then what happens after that? If there's more seats at the high school, I don't know. By the way, this also includes pre-K, the 2150 plus pre-K.
And
Keep forgetting about
pre-K,
pre-K.
One more question and then a request. I'm not sure, I guess this is page 4 of the statement of interest, and it's got a bunch of opportunities to check things off. And one of the things that's checked off is the intent of the project is to replace obsolete buildings in order to provide a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. What buildings are obsolete?
The way I explain it, and I'll let them, but when I went to school, when you went to school, and we're not that far apart in age, you had, you had 25,
Objection, Your Honor.
we're not that far apart. I'm older than you think. You had 25 or 30 kids in a classroom for the whole day.
Right.
Today, you have many more smaller classes. And the building is designed for 25, 30 kids in a classroom. So what they've done over the years is they started breaking these up into smaller components. But it's just, it's obsolete from an educational standpoint.
Because it says
Is that okay?
obsolete buildings, replace obsolete buildings in order to provide a full.
So I could tell you what my vision is.
I'm just asking, I mean, it's checked off.
My
I
vision.
know Dr. McIntyre prepared this, you folks didn't.
My vision is really clear in my mind. I don't know if it works, but I look at the building, and I'll do this reversed so that it makes sense. Here's the building, here's central office, and C wing behind it. B wing is in the middle, A wing is over here, which is coincidentally house A and B. The common areas, the gym, the auditorium, the cafeteria, the kitchen, those get renovated. The pool, those get renovated. And because of the student population, we will probably have to add athletic space. Just like Woodland had a 1,000-student population, we needed to build a gym and a multipurpose room because there's a physical education component required by the state. So to get 1,000 kids through PE through a week, you need physical space.
So this gives you an escape hatch to do literally anything you want to do within the existing.
Not anything, but so if you look at this building, my view is you take the two-story C wing, if you will, vacate it, either take it to the ground or add on top of it and build a tower over there. Then you vacate the A wing, move them over there, and do the same thing over there. Well, that's just my very 30,000, 60,000 foot flyover view of how you manage this. So when you say to take down buildings or replace
Well, I don't
buildings.
say it. That's what
we
you
Right,
said.
right. But this is not going to be Woodland, build a new one, demolish this one.
Got it. Okay.
That's not the model here. There's too many components in this building that are useful and will be renovated.
Okay, so
Lastly,
last question, Bob.
yeah, I got it. To you and your
I can
committee.
talk all night, yeah.
To you and your committee, a request. I call it truth in lending. And I would ask, and I would hope, and I will ask for it again when it comes before town meeting, that you outline the additional operational costs of that high school once it's built.
I'm expecting that.
Excuse me, teachers, janitors, IT, whatever. I think we owe that to the taxpayers of Milton, and I'm sure you agree. So
I agree.
it's not in your,
From a building committee perspective, I'm
Doesn't
fully
make-
expecting cost of operation to be included in, to come up with a preferred schematic
Good,
design.
good.
As far as the rest of it is concerned, that's school department, and I can't speak for them, but I'm sure they'll cooperate.
fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Chairman.
Bill?
A couple of things. There are costs involved to get to the preferred design selection.
Preferred schematic design, yes.
What are those and where are they?
Okay, so town meeting funded, and this committee supported it. Thank you very much. It gave me a job as a new volunteer job, but as a building committee. We're funded for $2.7 million. Divide that by 0.29, because it's reimbursable. That's where the money's coming from. We are responsible for up to $2.7 million of the entire cost, which includes owner's project manager, architectural fees, outside consultants. For example, we will need a wetland scientist, we'll need a survey team, there's going to be structural analysis that has to be done, there's going to be geotech. That's all already been funded by town meeting. The town's share will not exceed the $2.7 million. The state will pay 71% of whatever the total bill is.
Okay, I'd like to,
One thing, during the selection process, we got a quote, a bid for $400,000, and then it listed extra
Right.
hourly rates.
Right.
and we put the principal on the spot to say, okay, now, is this, you're saying it's $10 and you're going to charge me for every newspaper you read? And he said, no, he believes the 400,000 is all in.
And remember, out of that 400,000, 70%, 280,000, the state's paying.
But the key was, it's not, too many of these projects have creeped up in scope and in money. We wanted to know, what's the bottom line? Is the 400,000 400, or is it 400 plus another 100 on top? And he was pretty convincing that he thinks he's going to be able to stay to the bid amount.
Who's this?
And the next level,
Yeah, but what's...
James Reeve Stahl.
Reeve Stahl.
And the track record, by the way, if you go back and look at Woodland, and I'm, very proud to say this, we came in $2 million under budget and $1 million over scope.
Good. I do remember.
Over scope by $1 million.
Okay, I'd like to next turn to the finance issue. You guys have those charts? Now, this is a preliminary discussion, but it occurs to me that 8 to 12, voc option, everything you're saying is making sense. But it feels like people are out there saying, well, maybe we'll buy a $2 million house, maybe we'll buy an $800,000 house. We need to have some discussion about how it affects the taxpayers. I think it's important for you guys on the school building committee, as you're going through the deliberation process, to have some idea of what we're looking at. Do we have anything that we can share with these guys or no?
Just keep passing on, and
Okay.
it may be enough to hit the front row.
So I asked Paul and Zach just to run a few numbers, just to give people some idea of how this might play out financially for the town. Now, I don't need any. Yeah. You can read over mine if you want. While these are being passed out, so just to refresh everyone, we've been running a $5 to $6 million excess levy capacity the last few years, meaning the difference between what we could tax the citizens of Milford without a Proposition 2.5 override or without a debt exclusion versus what we're actually taxing them. What we have talked about as a goal for this project is to consume a large portion of the excess levy capacity to fund this project without having to go into a Proposition 2.5 override or a debt exclusion. Now, it will feel like a Proposition 2.5 override for the citizens once that excess levy capacity is largely evaporated, but it would not require a town vote. So I think it's important for all the constituents to understand where we're at legally and financially. So what we have here is we took a hypothetical, if the town's debt portion of this project was $100 million in example one. Now, I've heard a 73% reimbursement. People can do some numbers as to where that would leave us in. One word of caution, and Jonathan, I know you're involved in Woodland, so you've got this in mind. Brant very helpfully the other day pointed out to me the School Building Authority website that shows what the costs of some of these projects have been. And there are some towns that have gone above their funding capacity. I assume that is a dollar for dollar whack to the town.
My belief is that's true.
So people need to understand, if you budget a $300 million project and our town contribution is X and they authorize 300 and we spend 350, that extra 50 million is dollar for dollar us and we blow our brains out, right?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, but we should know the answer before we go too far down the road.
My understanding is that we're reimbursable to 73% for whatever the school is going to cost, with exceptions. For example, my memory is that site work was limited to 8%.
But presumably there are some caps.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, site work was 8%, but if we're doing something on the existing footprint, we're going to have minimal site work, as opposed to Woodland, site work was extensive.
The only reason I bring this up is we just had the highway department here 3 months ago on the Central Street project. We were supposed to get 70% reimbursement from the state. That was done based on a bid of X. 2 years later, the cost was Y, and the 70% reimbursement turned into 50%.
So I'm going to jump right in if I can for a moment. The committee voted, so there's 2 fundamental ways you could do this project. One is called the traditional design, bid, build. You design it, it goes out to bid, the lowest competent qualified bidder gets the job as the contractor, and you build it. The other approach is what we did, again, I'll come back to Woodland, it's CM at risk, construction manager at risk. When you sign your contract, you have a guaranteed maximum cost. Cannot go beyond there unless there's contingencies built in because the plans are never 100% and there's always something missed. But the trades, there's various sub-trades that are filed, the plumbing, HVAC, those things are the lowest qualified bidder. But the general contractor is a construction manager. Our team will develop what we believe is the maximum price. They will develop their maximum price. We'll negotiate, we'll come to it. That's what the town of Milford's exposure is, unless we change scope. Unless we change scope. An example at Woodland was we lighted the field. We used a virgin polyethylene or polypropylene infill for the field rather than the crumb rubber. We did a few other things in there. So we did increase the scope, which went above, but we never went out of contingency.
Okay.
So when we start this, we will know the price. There can be scope creep if we allow it to happen, but there will not be price creep.
And if there's bond, and presumably it's bonded, so if the developer runs into trouble, that's on their dime.
That's on them.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. All right, so I just, because I've handed this out, I want people to understand how the mechanics of this work, again, just so you folks know what the Finance Committee is looking at. So the first page is under the assumption that we incurred $100 million worth of debt. And you can see in the first table on the left, it has a proposed equal amortization. So if your mortgage, you may be used to equal monthly payment. This doesn't work that way. It's an equal amortization of the principal, which is the $3 million and a third each year for 30 years. And the interest, as you can see, gradually goes down each year. The third column, the annual payment, is just a combination of the two. You can see it would be about $8.3 million in the first year, 2029. And then you can see in the fourth column, the balance gradually goes down. Zach and Paul made some interest rate assumptions based on what we've seen in the marketplace recently. Again, just like everything else, where it's going to be in 2 or 3 years is anybody's guess, but we have to have a starting point. So that shows the proposed payments in the first table. Now, the second table, what's happening here is it's taking that debt along with the existing debt. So right now, I think we're still carrying a small amount of Woodland debt, for example, and there's a few other items. So you see that existing debt net is the debt that we're carrying. New capital is operating under the assumption that we'll have some meaningful capital project that the town is going to need in 10 years and then another 10 years hence. So that's what the second column reflects. Then we add to that the high school debt, which is just being carried over from the very first table, and that shows you your aggregate debt. So that far right-hand column, total debt, is the total debt that the town would need to carry, again, for the next 30 years. This is all hypothetical, all draft for discussion purposes only. Now, the third table on the right is where we try to pull it all together, and this shows how we would cover it, including the use of our stabilization funds. So the first few years, you'll see we're starting with a stabilization balance of a little over $30 million, and we project that that will increase for the next few years up into the low 40s. We embedded a 2.5% interest rate on stabilization, another great unknown. Could it be more? Could it decline? Anything can happen. We tried to take a relatively conservative number. And so then what we did is we took the total amount of debt that we would have. So again, let's look at 2029 just as an example. The total debt from the second table, you'll see the last column is $10,154,000. And then we said, okay, now we go to the third table, this third block here, where we have $7,672,000. Well, what is that $7,672,000? Well, that's the $5 million excess levy capacity that we've decided to eat as part of the project, and it's $2 million and change that we would otherwise contribute to stabilization. So we would have $7.6 million. We would need in that year $10.1 million. The shortfall is the $2,481,000, which you'll see on the last table, the second column over. So that's telling you in that year, we will need to eat $2,481,000 out of stabilization. And you say that shows a slow decline in the stabilization balance. And then we carry that through for 30 years, and under this hypothetical, and, you know, we're all looking 30 years into the distance with a crystal ball, our stabilization balance would drop down to $16 million at the end of the time period. That is the concept behind this analysis. We have a second page just to show people that at $125 million, under the same assumptions, negative $49 million in stabilization. So there is a world of difference between 100 and 125 under all of these assumptions. So obviously, there are a lot of work you folks have to do, but it just seemed to me that we should try to at least start putting some guardrails around this discussion about what are the resources, what are we trying to accomplish on the Finance Committee, so we're hopefully all rowing in the same direction. That's all I have to say about this chart. Is anybody, before I turn back to our invitees, is there anything else that folks, Lauren, did you get all of your questions in, or is there anything else you wanted to ask?
I'm good. It's all right.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, thank you for putting together the two scenarios. I'm sure there's a lot of work for you, and also Zach and crew probably put some time into this, because it's exceedingly important for a couple reasons. I mean, it's a hypothetical, it's an educated hypothetical, very relevant, the numbers could wiggle fine. But what it's telling us is, so first, the point you made, I want to reinforce it. You know, we've had taxpayer relief for years, which means that we haven't been taxing as much as we can. And when this comes true, you're saying, hey, in 2028, that would have to end. So that's not a 2.5% override, but it's a massive tax increase. So it's not free money. And I think people sometimes get confused about that. So it would be a massive tax increase. And it's also, to make this work, we'd have to have continued fiscal responsibility to say, hey, it's not just taking from our savings, it's also making sure that we could generate stabilization that we would have contributed and put it towards that, which means having a budget that has room to put money into this, or creating space for interest expense. So there's two things that, you know, are really important to pay attention to in this. You know, as you look at where we are, and every year we go through the budget, we always think hard about that and make sure that we create that contribution for the budget and sometimes for the stabilization. And sometimes it gets hard, you know, when the bills come in and things go the way you don't want them to go. Some years are better, some are worse. But you look at that and say, like, okay, that means we need to keep that up. So first you have the big bad guy that we've been kind of staring at for years, and then you have to, you know, keep up what we've been doing, and it's hard work to do that. And then it's that to make this work, we have to live off of our savings for all these years, and we're going to have to use our savings to be able to make this work without an override. Right. So there's a lot of moving parts in this, you know, and it's worth just reinforcing. I mean, I'm basically repeating what you said, but I think it's just exceedingly important for people to hear, and I'm hoping that some people are watching on TV, because this will be a shock when that tax bill comes several years out from now, because it's going to be a massive increase.
No, that point about the stabilization contributions we make every year, people shouldn't assume that's like a foregone conclusion, because we have an annual arm wrestling contest, right, with the annual budget, and trying to make that stabilization available. So that's not an easy task in and of itself. But no, I agree with you, Brandon, on all those points.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to just relate something anecdotally, but again, thank the town and you folks for the oversight that got us to this position. The day that the MSBA voted to bring us into feasibility, there was one question that was asked of us. And in all of our paperwork, it didn't talk about a debt exclusion or an override. And the question is, how are you going to do it? And that was because it's unheard of. And my standard answer is, we built Woodland Elementary, we bought the water company, And Town of Milford plays a very, very, very long game.
Yep.
And that's how we got here. I can't make promises, don't know what it's going to cost, but I am confident that you folks in the finance department is continuing to pay attention, and we're going to all work together to get a product out the door.
Craig, Matt, Chris, you guys want to add anything? You're good.
Yeah, I don't know what else to add.
You're good.
Jonathan kind of said
Pay
it
the
all.
sale. That's when you say, thank you very much.
When you get what you want, get out.
One thing to put guardrails around what Brant said, it's $80, is it 80 still, Paulie?
It's in that
It's
vicinity.
$80 a million. So when we're talking about, I mean, any tax increase in my mind is massive. It can be $1 or $2 because people are not flush with cash everywhere. But it's $80 a million. So when we talk about 2-3 million, you can do the math and see how it affects.
And this is 5 million, right? So for an average house, that would be $400 a year. And on top of your regular increase, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's real. It's real. Jonathan, you've been very informative. Appreciate all your work. I think
Not
this-
just me. I just get the ability to set the agenda and sit there. That's all I do.
Yeah,
It's the committee.
you on
There's
behalf of your
It's
committee.
15 people.
Yeah.
There's 15 people plus people within the school department. That's who gets the compliment.
Yeah, and you guys obviously did a great job with the statement of interest. I do echo what Bob was saying about the operational costs. I think when the time comes, that's equally important to the build-out. But unless anybody else has any questions, I'm ready to go to the next agenda item. So I think
Good night, everyone.
you can leave. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Take care. Okay. The next on the agenda is the school internal audit results. Everyone has been given a copy of the audit report and the school's response. I just had a couple of follow-up questions for you guys. On internal control, if you can answer it, if not, if someone can get back to us. I understand that the issue of, okay, we have internal controls in that you've got some people handling the books at the school department, and we've got the town side handling the money. What about the issue of confirming that what was purchased or ordered was actually completed according to task? Because I have a recollection there was some issue that come up. Did that come up at all in the
Put
context?
something in place. So now when work is completed, Carlos, our facility manager, signs off on it, but the building principal also signs off on it.
Okay, okay. Second question, there was something in the internal audit about HR, and it might have been about grant people. Are those all revenue neutral, or do they have any impact on your budget to the extent you're adopting any of their recommendations? Do you know?
I believe the grant person, they just wondered why we had this additional grant person, and also when the grant person also writes the grants, right? So it's an important role. I think that what they were questioning is, why does that grant person, why are they playing a role in approving different parts of the grant through the system that we use, which is called GEMS, when it can just go through when. It's a system we have. I think the most important role that that person plays is in the writing of the grants.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on this? Brent?
just have a quick
Brent,
question.
Brent, and then Bob, and then Bill.
I just wanted to follow up on.
No, I don't. I just
on the
want,
Oh,
procurement.
okay, thank you.
So in the procurement and purchasing, so when you read about the audit, it sounds like they interviewed 13 people, right? So that gives me a mental image of that, which sounds like it's conversational and not like going out and doing a lot of testing, right? So I'm trying to create the mental image of this thing. Tell me if I've got this wrong, by the way. There was I want to say finding, but it's probably not really a finding, a recommendation to talk about controls and process around invoicing and what you sort of made reference to. Like there was some perception of a gap between like, hey, sometimes we get a bill and there hasn't been a PO cut already.
Right.
And I saw the response. The response is like, well, in rare cases it happens in an emergency. But I was wondering, did anybody go back and say, it's like, and that's fine, that can happen, but has anybody gone back and said, hey, to the auditors, can you give me the examples of the things that led to your recommendation? Can you give me like the 5 things and we can say, yeah, those are all emergencies and they were safety issues or something like that, and that'd be fine. But it's, when you read this from the outside, you just look at it and go, well, it's kind of a vague recommendation, but they're talking about something that seems like it's an issue, and the response is well written, but it's kind of like there's no issue here, and you're like, I don't know if the dots have connected here, if anybody's followed up on that. That's what I wanted to
I
ask.
believe it's a non-issue. I think the instances, I talked over with Wen, the instances she was talking about with me that they pointed to, she said to me, where imagine you had an emergency, something with the boiler over the weekend, couldn't get to the people in the business office, you had to do the work is done, now we're in reverse order, and we just normally aren't.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we thought those examples really fell into this, because it just wasn't written in a way that says, yes, there was these 5 things, and they were all emergencies, and here we go, right?
Yeah, no, it's just, I think.
I understand that it's going to happen.
It is, and I think the point of pointing it out was just for us to be aware of it and to, I guess, put procedures in place to prevent it as much as possible. Emergencies are going to happen. We can't prevent it always, but I think that the procedures we do have in place prevent it 99.9% of the time.
Thanks.
Bill?
Yes, neither Dave nor I received a copy of this audit report that
How
you're
was
talking
this,
about.
how was this sent out? Because I've been going through all my
I
emails.
emailed it August 20 and August 22nd.
Let's take a look.
It's going to audit the audit.
And I sent a follow-up email last week reminding everyone of what they had received.
Scrolling over there.
August 20th.
But I do want to say that.
Want mine right now?
Well, you're just lucky I didn't receive it, because if I read that.
But I think Zach will concur that Wen and Zach and our office and their office work very closely together. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Zach, but as far as I know, through Wen, Zach was happy with the work that we did in the report that Wen supplied, and all the things that we're putting in place from now and through the end of the year.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I get it.
I can talk for a minute. We actually had a meeting yesterday regarding going cloud-based with our enterprise system, and it is so long overdue. That's the $1 million item that's been on Al's list. Happy to report, we already budgeted it, and it's way less than $1 million. It's like $50K. So yeah, because we're sticking with the same vendor that now has these new cloud initiatives that look really, really good. They're giving us a discount. We don't have to do this massive migration. And when we do this cloud movement, a lot of these audit findings or recommendations, I should say, can be addressed through efficiencies in technologies and more robust security protocols. And I think you'll see a much more streamlined PO system too. And I will agree, the purchase order system from the school department is far superior than anything we use in the town. And mainly because the town budgets are so compartmentalized, where you have department heads that run $1 million, $2 million, $500,000. Schools have 70 some odd $1 million with lots and lots of purchasing, teachers and principals. So primarily the purchase order system is a way of tracking, breaking down the budget to a more granular system with proper approvals. So a lot's going to be happening. To Craig's point, I've been working closely with central office. I am quite pleased with the progress. I also want to say with the start of the new school year, usually there's a lot of payroll issues and whatnot, and that's a little bit of what may have caused this audit in the first place. But it was quite smooth this year. Very happy with that, and I look forward to continuing to work with them.
Is this audit a yearly thing, or is it like, is there a comparison between a previous audit to see like progress of like improvements or anything like that?
No is the answer. I mean, we could if we wanted to, but we are. So this This was the internal control audit.
Oh, this was a
Not
separate-
a forensic audit, it was not our financial audit, it was not our benefits audit, our retirement audit, we have audits everywhere.
You may remember, we talked about this like back in the fall.
Audit, right?
This was the fall when we had them in, yeah.
Okay. Good job, guys.
They did offer assistance if we needed, I'm not sure we do right now, and again, we are progressing toward a lot of these recommendations, and they look very good, I'm happy with it.
Okay. Anything else before we move to the next agenda item? Thanks for coming, guys.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Zach. I'm moving Zach up on the agenda since he doesn't need to be here for the remaining items. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you. Welcome aboard, welcome aboard. All right, so just going to give you an update now. A couple things happening this time of year, working to submit the balance sheet to the Department of Revenue, and subsequently, that's what kicks out free cash. I have a meeting with them at Prezzo's at noontime on Friday.
Are they paying?
We each pay.
Oh, you
And
pay.
make that very clear. Yeah, I've attempted to, they won't let me. So I'm rolling in about 6.5 million is what I'm going to look to have certified. Reminder, if you recall, last year I went in with one number. They made me close out circuit breaker funds, even though I ended up being right in the long run. But just don't be surprised, little things like that can occur. I don't think it will, mind you, but little things like that can occur. 6.5 is a pretty healthy number, a pretty routine number for us. We've had higher, we've had lower. I'm pleased with it, given that, as a reminder, when we closed out the Maytown meeting, we fell a little behind target of where we wanted to be. I think at the time was about $500,000. That may have grown a little bit based on assumptions that we have in that balance sheet, not too significantly, but we might be looking at like $600,000 to $700,000 that we got to quote unquote make up for if we're going to stick to the discipline that we were just discussing. And by the way, you did a really good job of making that point.
You're talking about the excess levy capacity?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think we
Yes.
talked in May about replenishing.
Yeah, we're about $500,000 behind,
Yeah.
but due to some circumstances, it's a little bit bigger, not uncommon at all, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's in that direction. I am a little bit surprised, and I'll do this fully once I have it certified. I'll give you exact numbers where free cash comes from. I like to do that anyway, and it's good to know. I'm a little bit surprised at that number of 6.5, given that usually a surplus comes out of the benefits department, and we know that that was not a situation this year. I actually had to take money from the OPEB account in order to completely satisfy the budget this year. So I was a little bit worried about that. Essentially, our budgetary turnbacks were not significant. It was about 1.5 million. That is not a lot based on a $150+ million budget. But what was really good this year was local receipt money.
Say that.
Yes, local receipt money was really good. And one of the big surprises was the Geriatric Authority providing not only the current year's reimbursement of debt payments that we did, but the prior years that they did not give us. So if you recall, when they did not pay us in the prior year, we made a decision not to estimate it. It's a local receipt. So we made a decision not to estimate, which was a good decision because DOR probably wouldn't have allowed it anyway. So we did not do that, and then pleasantly, we got both of them. So we didn't anticipate getting even the current year, never mind the previous year. So that was really one of the biggest drivers, not to mention we did really good with interest income.
Building?
Yeah, building department, slowing down a little bit from prior years, but that exceeded too. But again, I'll come in with like a real analysis of the drivers there. We had a discussion earlier, if we're talking drivers. On the flip side, on expenses, regarding health insurance, and I don't know if you want to share that
Well,
experience. but-
the Wall Street Journal said that the businesses are expecting the largest premium increase in 15 years on health insurance. I don't know if that's going to filter through to the local government, but we all know that that item has been a concern the last year or two, so we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, that's probably my largest concern, and obviously school department too, keeping that in a disciplined balance as well. So that's what's cooking on my side. Everything looks pretty smooth. I don't expect any surprises.
So
I meet on
when do you
Friday.
want to have that discussion about the free cash? Would that be at our next meeting, or is that
If you're
something?
not too jammed up,
Well, that's-
yes.
that's okay.
But if, well, as we talked to, you asked me maybe in November to do the Red Book kind of
So
tutorial.
we just roll it in
I
there?
could easily roll it in
Yeah,
then if you
okay.
like. I could also distribute something too in advance so people can get familiar with it, you know?
Okay.
Switching gears from that real quick over to town meeting. We know the warrant is open. We have, I think, 24, 25 articles now. There's still, it's open until Friday. Hypothetically, you know, things can be added if the selectmen would like to. A lot of it is indeed on the capital plan. Just real quick, I think the biggest ticket item is going to be the engine,
Fire
fire
truck.
engine. Yep, you can see a lot of smaller equipment. You'll see some of the litigation issues, like the PFAS on Birch Street, like Benjamin Moore next door with the remediation issues there. Total currently looking in the neighborhood of $3 million. All right, but we still have, on our balance sheet, we have some money available there, and I think as of now, it seems like we should be able to work out not only what we need there, if of course it's approved with capital and we want to move forward, but also be able to meet our other financial objectives, stabilization contribution, cleaning back up, putting that excess levy back in place, and on top of that, having an available free cash balance for May, which I also view as crucially important, or a recipe for success, if you will.
So let's just talk about the warrant a little bit, because the timing always trips me up a little bit here. We're looking at a meeting somewhere around like October 20th, give or take,
Yes.
and that needs to go out into the world by like October 4th, 5th.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
October 4th, 5th.
Yeah.
Al needs to prepare the report, which takes a couple of days. And at the moment, the select board wasn't supposed to even vote on it until September 29th, which I'm told that may get backed up to an earlier time, which it really needs to. And, you know, I think we need to budget 2 nights to be conservative. So at the moment, I'm thinking that maybe we would meet Thursday, September 25th, because I'm thinking if the select board meets on the 22nd, that's a Monday, then Tuesday, the 22nd, would give us 48 hours to give notice, and you'd be able to tell me whatever happened from that meeting. Does that make sense?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So September 25th, folks, is what I'm thinking. If
Thursday, yeah.
That's a Thursday. And then maybe our second night. Now, Al, how much time would you like to get to finish this, is the question.
Would I like?
Because I was going to say Thursday, October 2nd, but I don't want to back you up too much. Would it be Tuesday, September 29? I mean, let's see, that Thursday is the 25th.
Paulie, how many days before town meeting does it have to be
So
mailed?
typically, it's that 10-day, so Monday is the meeting.
Yeah.
Typically, they mail them out first thing the week before the Friday, so like 10 days earlier, so that the people get them 7 days in advance.
So Monday is the 20th.
So
You need
if you do it on
13
the 10th,
days.
It's the Friday.
So
'Cause I need at least a day.
So he needs, so the 10th, I need to make 250 copies of 40 pages, which takes more than a few minutes.
So just back, if our second date as a backup was Thursday, October 2nd, would that give you guys enough time, or do we need to back up earlier? The reason I'm skipping October 1st is I think it's Yom Kippur, which is the Wednesday.
Don't look at me.
If it's not an issue, Wednesdays are usually better, though, but I mean, that could be.
I have gotten complaints
Okay, well, then-
in the past. So what was the answer? October 2nd, is that okay for you guys? When I say you guys, I mean Paul and Al.
So, I mean, if I get it by the 10th, by the 8th, I'm all set.
Oh, yeah.
That gives you the weekend, you're okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if everybody can tentatively pencil in Thursday, September 25th, and Thursday, October 2nd as a backup if we can't get everything done.
25th.
Thursday, the 9/25, and Thursday, October.
You have to do it without me.
Which one?
25th. 25th and 26th is the 2 days that my darling bride reserves to go to Penn State.
Wow, she's got a lot of nerve doing
Yeah. Can we do
Well,
the
my only-
24th?
We can't,
We will talk in advance. You
Yeah,
probably can.
My only concern about the 24th was if the select board meets on the 22nd, then I don't have 48 hours to maneuver on the open meeting.
We'll
Post the
get
meeting
you what you
anyway.
need before that.
All right,
if
all
that's
right.
the
Andy,
case. We'll be
post
in
the
touch.
meeting. You can always cancel it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You can post the meeting, you can adjust agenda items as they become known, but you gotta have an outline of some of the ones that are gonna be on there.
Okay, so it's Wednesday, 9/24, and Thursday, 10/2.
9/24.
And as we spoke, I'll get you a list of people you need to bring
Okay.
out and all that well in advance.
Okay. Anything else from you, Zach?
Not at the time.
Okay. Well, thank you as always. We'll let Zach go. I just got a couple of other items before we adjourn.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, take care. Okay, subcommittee assignments, modifications. I circulated a proposed subcommittee list to everyone, just a few observations. As a reminder, particularly for the new people, we used to have a full committee for each separate department. Last year, I converted this so that the majority of these are a single person being responsible with another person sort of as their backup, and I did that for a multitude of reasons. Number one, if it's not a committee, you do not have to worry about posting those subcommittee meetings with the town. You don't have to worry about quorums. You don't have to worry about minutes. We dispense with all of those things. There are a few sections that are continued to be full committees, usually because of their size or their special purpose. For this year's purposes, that includes the Capital Committee, which I think is required by our bylaws, the Executive Committee that handles, the non-ordinary business, and the School Committee. And Mike Nicholson asked to have a break this year, so Bill Farrell has stepped in to be the chair of the School Committee. I have eliminated the Countryside Committee. I have asked Zach to get us periodic financial information for them, but there are no requests coming that we know of, so I think we can just put that in a sort of observation mode for now. If anybody has any questions or preferences or whatever with respect to what I've circulated on this, they can always contact me afterwards. Okay, so that's subcommittee issues.
Hey, Andy, can I jump in with?
Absolutely.
So we have two new members here, so welcome again. Capital Subcommittee is one that Al runs, and these subcommittees, when we meet, even if you're not on one, Al, tell me if I'm wrong, but we always welcome anybody to come and listen in.
Yeah.
That's a good one to listen in. It's frequently before our open meeting on Wednesday, so it's usually the same night, but you get to hear about the capital projects departments are working on, and this warrant article will have a lot of them, but you also it's just a great way to learn about all the different departments and what they're up to. And I've been a part of it since I joined, and you just learn a ton about what's happening in town, so plug in.
Thank you for that, Brent.
And if you're interested, let me know, because I'll just include you on the invitation.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that you would want to know, presumably, Al, is if people want to just show up occasionally to observe versus being voting members, right?
Right.
Yeah, so
Voting members is yours. Visitors, we can always make room.
Yeah, and if you want to be on a committee and you're not on a committee, talk to Al or talk to I, but I agree with everything that Brent and Al just said. Okay, we talked about warrant. The only other thing is the long-term budget trends, just to sort of reinforce what we were talking about late last year. If you haven't already, please take a look at the Finance Committee presentation from the May town meeting where we went through the long-term budget trends. We do have some challenges coming forward. The rate of growth of town spending over the last 5 or 6 years has been increasing compared to where we were at, and it's being subsidized in no small measure by outsized increases in state aid. And there is a concern that if the state aid does not continue to grow at those outsized rates, there's going to have to be some structural changes made to our spending, because otherwise we would create a structural deficit that would be chewing into savings and inevitably lead to having to go for taxpayer relief. So I just want everybody to be aware of those trends, and we'll be talking much more about those as time goes by. Any other business? Yes.
Quick question.
Yes,
I
sir.
just got a note. Is there any way we can do the meeting on the 23rd? Because the 24th, I have to be in New York.
That's what Zoom is for, Al. Al, that's what Zoom is for.
Is that the Tuesday after the Monday?
No excuses.
I can try and do the report off the videotape.
I'm kidding.
Well, my only concern is the select board's going to meet on the 22nd.
But once they vote it, we got it.
What do we got?
Maybe,
We got the warrant.
maybe.
Yeah, unless they change it.
Or they don't take all of it up.
So you're out Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday that week, is what you're telling
And
me?
Saturday and
And
Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday. Do you want to do it by Zoom, or do you really want to be here? You'd like to be here. It's written on your face, you'd like to be here.
It's tougher to do it by Zoom.
It's just like being here.
Next best thing.
It's just like being, listen to Lauren.
I'd only acknowledge that he does write a lot of that report by himself, so I'm very
Well,
deferential to his desires.
You know, Brant makes a very good point. Al does no small amount in preparing the report, so that may have just tipped us here. That may have just tipped us
Desire to
here.
not take over that.
All right, I am a little concerned about the timing here, but Tuesday, the 23rd.
Good for me.
In the worst case, to address the issue of if there's a couple articles the select board hasn't gone over, in the past decade, we have submitted town meeting reports that said at this point,
Right.
we did not have the information to vote on it.
Right, right.
So we've had that in the past. That's
That works.
the relief valve. So if they leave 3 or 4 articles till a week or two later,
Yeah, I mean, we do have that second date as the backup, but yeah, no, I understand. Okay. Going once, going twice. Now, it's Tuesday, 9:23, and Thursday, 10:02. Any objections to that? Okay, so that's what I will tentatively schedule for. Any other business? I don't hear any. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Vin to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Brandt. Roll call. Sean?
Yes.
David? Bill? Ash?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Oh, and Jerry is there. Jerry, there's a motion. You're in time for the motion to adjourn.
Yes.
All right, unanimous.
Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.